I did a quantum healing hypnosis session yesterday and I recorded it on my phone. And so I was trying to get that onto my computer this morning, but then I saw this long list of audio files on my phone and I started listening to them. And they were these random recordings I had made like through the end of the breathwork program and like even after graduation, like these just little notes that I was taking or like me practicing saying like who I am and what we're doing today. And it was just the funniest thing to like hear the change. And there was one recording where I must have just done a breath work because I sounded just so calm and so peaceful and like slow and in my body. I was like, oh, I want to sound like that more. I feel like I've been tapping into the more energy recently and that my voice
Mm.
has come out of my body and back up into my throat,
Mm.
which I find fascinating.
I feel like there's been a few different things that have come up this week that have been little nudges for me to reflect and give myself recognition for progress that's happened. And I feel like that is another example of just reminding us to celebrate how far we've come and the progress we've made, even as we're continually planting the new seeds and making the new intentions and embodying things deeper and always setting our sights on that next level up. um I know I am not always good at giving myself recognition for that progress, and that's come up a few times, so maybe
Mm.
that's something for you to take away from it too.
Yeah, seeing that growth. Mm. I was recently cleaning up Zoom videos from the programs too, and like the partner sessions and why I think I should be a pause breathwork facilitator. I don't remember if you remember making that video, but I was
Yeah.
like, because I just am. I'm so ready. It was cute. It was just like there was, and there still is, so much passion and excitement.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah, it's neat too because it's like the passion and excitement at first is in the mind in the that conceptual state, and then it slowly like descends into the body as more of an embodied passion
Yeah.
versus a conceptual passion that we're just envisioning or imagining versus it being embodied.
Yeah, and help but, like bringing it into the body helps it become our reality.
Yeah.
Ooh, ooh, that's so juicy.
I love that.
Welcome to the Wholesome Healing Collective.
Join us on our podcast for a journey into the hearts of healers from all walks of life, diving deep as we explore meaningful conversations that have the power to inspire, empower, and share life-changing wisdom.
Through this community, we hope to create a welcoming environment where our listeners leave feeling nurtured and uplifted. We are so delighted you are here. My name is Alyssa.
And I'm Renee. Grab a drink, get cozy, and let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wholesome Healing Collective podcast. Renee and Alyssa here today, and we are brainstorming on a casual conversation with you around some of our reflections with surrendering to our processes and the seasons that we're in, the cycles of our bodies and the energies that we're attuning to. So grab a cup of something yummy and join us for this conversation.
Mm. You remember when we used to say, "What are you drinking?" Like that was a big part of it, and now we just miss that part. We
Oh,
don't talk about it.
yeah.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking cacao, my second
Mm.
cup of the day.
I love
I
that.
usually only have one, but today I was vibing on two.
Yeah, I'll
How
probably
about
get
you?
one later. I just finished a cup of tea. It has lavender and pea protein and hibiscus
Ooh.
and schisandra in it. It's like this juicy blend. It's like collagen beauty or something like that.
Nice. I
Yeah.
recently got blood work done, and my doctor said that my magnesium levels were looking good,
Mhm.
which he was a little bit surprised about due to some of other deficiencies. And he's like, "You must be taking a magnesium supplement." And I was like, "No, I just drink my cacao." So I get
Wow.
my magnesium.
That's so cool that it provides enough magnesium that you wouldn't need to take like an additional supplement.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I definitely, now that I've made that switch officially from coffee to cacao, and it's been, a few months, I really feel the difference when I do have a coffee, even when I drink, because I've only had a handful of decaf coffees this year, but even the decaf coffee, I can feel it start to tense my muscles up. I don't know if it's the acidity or maybe the little bit of caffeine that is left in decaf, because in case anyone didn't know this, decaf coffee isn't truly 100% decaf. It's more like 90 to 95% decaf. You're still getting some caffeine. Um, and I can feel it affect my muscles. So I've noticed that. And I actually got a headache earlier in the week when I had a decaf coffee 2 days in a row. And I was like, all right, back to my cacao. None of
Mm.
this.
Wow. I'm curious what made you cut back on coffee or quit coffee.
Um, it was a suspicion that it was affecting my muscle tension, because even though I've had a lot of improvement with my neck and back stuff, I've still had quite a lot of minor pain and tension in my back. And it was just one of those things where I was like, okay, I got to try something. And this was my intuitive culprit, I guess, that I wanted to experiment with taking out. And after removing it for a couple weeks and reintroducing it, I noticed right away feeling more tense. And so I was like, okay, this is it. I gotta get rid of this. Plus,
Wow.
caffeine is also an appetite suppressant, and I am currently trying to stimulate my appetite and eat more and eat more often. So that was another reason that I felt like getting rid of the coffee would help me,
Mm.
because I need to eat an actual meal and not drink my calories. Because I could drink a coffee in the morning and not eat till 2 in the afternoon, if I'm not consciously making an effort to eat sooner. So now I drink the cacao and try to eat sooner. It doesn't
Mm.
suppress the appetite the same.
Wow. I love that you made those changes and that your body already knew what the culprit was.
Yeah.
Intuition. Mm.
Yeah. It's funny how we often have those little inclinings of, maybe I should take a break from this, or maybe I should look at this. And we want to override it because we're like, no, we deserve that coffee. It's our thing in the morning and it makes us feel good. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but maybe there's
Mm.
something else that can make you feel better.
Yeah. I love that. Um, I met somebody for the first time on Monday, and she had a giant, this is completely off topic, but maybe a little related, a giant like burn blister on her hand from boiling hot water. And as soon as I saw it, the word honey popped up in my head, and I was like, maybe you should do some research and see if you can put honey on that, because that just came through for me. And I thought it was the weirdest thing. And now I'm like, maybe that's my guides communicating to me. And when you pull that piece out of the air and run with it, they'll send more. So,
Yeah.
those intuitive inklings, like it's the coffee or it's the cigarettes or whatever it is. Um, when we're like thinking that thought, maybe it's not our thought, maybe it's our guides like saying, maybe it's the coffee.
Yeah. It's that little nudge.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
can be hard to listen, especially when it's like something like that where you're not having a conversation. There's nothing really stimulating you, and you just think that's your own thought. Um, but I definitely resonate with the inkling, like knowing it's probably this thing that I should look at.
Yeah. Yeah. Learning to listen to those whispers definitely helps to um help, or it helps me to start to lean into the trust as I listen to the whisper and then have the evidence prove, like, okay, yes, that was a factor. It was affecting me. Okay, now I'm listening for more. What's the next clue? I'm
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah. Those breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Mm. So, um, our topic, like surrender and seasons. We've mentioned seasons a couple times as the seasons of seasons. The seasons have started to change. Um, I feel like this year I'm really noticing them more. And I don't know if it's
Yeah.
like this progression as I move through my spiritual and healing journey that I'm just more aware of all of these things. Last year, every morning when I would walk my kids out to the bus stop, I would track the sun and like really notice it shifting with the seasons and then the time changes and then it moves again. And I'm just like, whoa, this is what's happening on this day. Like it was the weirdest thing. And now this year it's like gone a step further. It's not just the sun anymore. It's like the snow or the animals or whatever it is. And also the astrology along with it and the energies along with it. So it's just might sound like a common theme, but that's because like it really is. These
Yeah.
the seasons are always changing.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to start to notice the energetic season beyond the visual temperature, nature changing season. And I don't feel like I've ever really noticed that before. And like we were talking about before we started, I've really noticed that feeling of being in tune with the energetic year versus our calendar year. And in previous years, I was very much the, okay, it's January. Let's get going on our intentions. And it's a new year, a new energy, and go, go, go. And this season, this year, I've really felt like it's not time yet. We're
Mm,
still in rest. We're still in winter. We're still in a place where the seeds and of intentions that I've planted are not quite ready to really flourish. Like maybe there's a sprout, um, but I've been in a little bit of a dance between my conditioned response to go and attuning to my body that's saying not yet, and really
mm,
surrendering to, okay, it's not time yet. I'm trusting that when it is time, the energy is going to come, the inspiration is going to be there, the passion is going to come through. And as I continue to surrender and trust, I feel it starting to build in my body. And
mm,
it's so interesting to observe because it's the subtle shifts moving in the direction that I want to go, and yet it's still not quite time to move.
mm,
But things are shifting, and I'm noticing it in my awareness, and I'm noticing it in my conversations and the conversations that are being brought to me that I'm not necessarily seeking out. And it's almost like creating this like giddy anticipation of
mm,
what's next instead of anxiety of what could happen. I'm The surrender is giving me excitement to what will become, which is a new and foreign feeling that I'm loving. And actually, I didn't really realize that until I'm now trying to put it into words. So that's kind of cool.
mm. I love all of that. The surrender is like building that excitement for you. And you're, oh, yeah, most of us are always like, go, go, go. And like moving on to the next thing and not even feeling any excitement for any of it. but now you're just like in this void and this surrender, and you're just waiting. Oh, love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I think that, at least for me previously, the concept of surrender was always coupled with something negative. Like I
Mm,
surrender when I don't have control over this thing I want to change. But what about surrendering when there's nothing wrong?
yeah.
Like, what about surrendering when you know that you're surrendering to what's right that's coming your way?
Mm,
It's totally foreign, but a really neat new perspective.
I love that. I love that. I feel like I've been struggling with surrender since we moved. And I was in such a deep state of surrender before we moved. Like, that's why we moved, because I surrendered so much. And now I'm here and I'm like, now what? Tell me. Tell me what it is I'm supposed to be doing. Um, I guess the last couple of months have been the most surrendered I've been since I moved here, just because I feel like I'm stripping everything away. And
Mm,
so it's been maybe not even like as much just, waiting in the void like you are, and you're just like curious. I'm like digging a hole and
mm,
seeing what's under there, and like just pushing all that dirt away and like all the debris, and waiting to see like what's going to grow in that place. But I
yeah,
feel like even then for me, it's still a lot of work while I'm waiting, while I'm surrendering.
yeah. It's like you're on that treasure hunt and you found the X that marks the spot, but you have to like excavate it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's the treasure?
I know
Mm.
it's in there.
Yeah. And I think setting the intentions at the beginning of the year was the hugest catalyst to this current stage of surrender for me. And intentions
Yeah.
can be so powerful. You were just sharing a little bit about your most recent journey. I don't know if you want to share anything more about that.
Yeah. I feel like this year with intentions has been a little bit of an evolved practice for me from what I've done in years past. And this year, um, I feel like I've been infusing my intentions into my daily life more. Whereas before, every year I've picked a word and I've focused on it, and I usually do a vision board and put images to what I'm wanting to call in. And I do put that in a place where I see it often and think about it. But this year I didn't actually do the visual aspect. And instead I've been um infusing the intention into my daily prayers. Like when I'm sitting with my cup of cacao, or um, when I do find myself in a place of an energy that I don't want to be in, I am coming back to those intentions of trust and joy and freedom. And I feel like it's been this really incredible infusing into my life that is showing up in different ways. And it's really interesting. It's I'm finding it hard to put into words. um the journey. It's like it's only February. I mean, it's the end of February, but it feels like a lot has already happened this year. I don't know if it's just because the years are kind of rolling together, or maybe it's because like the energetic year hasn't ended, so it feels like it's the whole year and we haven't started fresh yet. But it's been really beautiful to feel my intentions embodied a little deeper, I think, and observing how that's slowly starting to manifest into my life and be reflected in my external reality. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Wow. I love that slowness and like just the watching. I do feel like time has just, it's moving so fast. It's crazy that it's really only been 8 or 9 weeks since the start of the calendar year, because that it blows my mind. Like
Yeah.
it feels like so much has happened. I don't know. Time is weird right now.
Yeah. And another note on surrender that just popped into my mind is just recognizing and reflecting on where I'm at with my employment. And I don't think I've mentioned it on the podcast that in my 9 to 5, I work in philanthropy, and my company that I work for has relocated my position to another state. And because I don't want to move to that other state, I'm being let go. And had I received this news a year ago, 5 years ago, it would have been pretty devastating for me. And I would be in a state of probably panic at losing that security. But I'm totally fine. And I'm
Mm.
totally trusting of this being the next step in my evolution and path. And the universe just gently guiding me out the door because I've already been laying the foundation for my true soul path for this next. And I feel like I've been on my soul path this whole time. I know that this job, this decade of my life, has been a chapter preparing me for the next steps on my path. And it's just this beautiful nudging of the universe in the right direction. And I'm, I guess I'm proud of myself for finding the beauty in this versus the anxiety that I would have felt previously and going into all of the scarcity energy of what am I going to do and how am I going to support myself and all these things. And instead, I'm like, no, this is it. This is it. What's next? Let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
I love that. I love how you didn't feel the need to jump off the diving board and go all in. Like keeping your job and keeping that security and that stability is a good choice for you and for other people. Like when you find your soul path, you don't have to jump off the diving board and go all in. It's okay to have a 9 to 5 that supports you in your dreams. And I just wanted to throw that out there. And then as the universe is like guiding you, just gently, like, okay, now it's time because you're
Yeah.
in like this state of surrender. You've done all of the work and you can see all of the signs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like I remember one of our mentors in breathwork, Tracy, I forget her last name, but she one time shared a just a really simple perspective on the concept of surrendering and letting go. And she said, and she used a pen as an example. She's like, sometimes when you're being called to let go, it doesn't mean that you're being asked to let go like this. It might mean that you're being asked to let go like this.
Ooh.
And you're still holding it, but you're not gripping it so tightly. And then it can move in the direction that it needs to go. And you don't necessarily have to huck it out the window.
Mm,
So I feel like that's kind of been my journey with my job, where I have been preparing to let go and I've released my grip, but I didn't drop it and I didn't dive off like you said. I just let it take its natural course, and the universe took care of the rest and said, okay, you're done here now.
mm. Um, I love that when you release the control, you're just like, letting whatever happen happen. Most of the time people are like forcing things and gripping onto things and only imagining that things will happen this one way that I say it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it doesn't, that's when they get upset. But if you
Yeah.
can just surrender to the universe and just be curious about what it has in store for you,
Yeah,
you
it's
got
not,
it.
instead of gripping from one thing and being like, okay, I'm going to let this go, but I'm going to immediately grip onto this. And I feel like that's a lot of times what we do. We're like, okay, we found our next passion or our next um step in the path. So let me let go of this, but immediately cling on to that next thing because that's now where I'm getting my security
Mhm.
instead of just like, okay, I see that next step. It's right over there, but I don't know how to get there yet. And I'm not going to grip onto it. I'm just going to let it guide me there because I know that that's where I'm going.
Mm, yeah. And we can use our human design in um, responding to some of those
Mm,
signs and checking with our human design to see if that's how we should be operating. Like some of us can't be so forceful in making things happen. Some of us
yeah.
need to be just responding to our environment, or some need to be waiting for the invitation. Or one of us, not one of us, but the one of the energy types is wait a whole moon cycle. And I could not imagine
Mm,
waiting 28 days to make a decision.
yeah, that would be a challenge for me.
Yeah.
Although I have, that has been a practice that I've adopted. And I don't know why I started doing this, but at some point in the last couple of years, I stopped responding immediately to things. I relinquished the people pleasing need to respond immediately to text messages, email requests, even in person invitations. I realized that sometimes my initial excitement or my initial people pleasing mentality of like, yes, I will do that, started to not serve me because afterwards I would regret it. And so I started adopting this pause of, let me get back to you, or I'm just not going to respond. I'm going to wait 24 hours to respond. And that has really served me. And I've realized that most of the time, people don't care if you wait 24 hours to get back to them. Like maybe a text, someone might expect a little bit more of a prompt response. Maybe it's like, I'll get back to you tomorrow. But um, that part of me that previously was like, oh, they're going to think this if I don't get back to them, or they're going to be upset if I say no. Most of the time, it's they understand. And it's our stories that really is chaining us down more so than the real reactions that we get from people. Not to
Mm,
say that there aren't those reactions that are going to happen, but it's just been an interesting observation for myself at how much I would build those things up in my head and then realize that that's not actually what tends to happen.
I love those boundaries. We were just talking about that on Monday in our mastermind, the boundaries, setting those and like, um, I don't know, setting ones that feel good, but what just came through was tangled up and I could have shared it then. When you place a boundary like that, um, for me, because I almost replied to somebody last night and I was like, wait, I don't need to do that one right now. I could wait until tomorrow. But the more that I do the things that I say I'm not going to do, the more people will expect that of me if I'm not holding my own boundaries. So I
Yeah.
just thought that was funny after our conversation on Monday.
Yeah, totally. And I loved that bit of wisdom that came through around boundaries being the other side of the balance coin, and everyone's boundaries that help them find balance are different. But in order for us to find the balance that we want between external requests and internal desires is the boundaries that we set for ourselves.
Mm, I love that.
When you feel that inclining, like I need to surrender in this moment or this scenario or this chapter, what is your go-to practice or ritual
Mhm.
or perspective shift that you like to lean into?
Ooh, I think for me, it's really like visualizing like the letting go and like you said with the pen, it's not this free falling, but it's like floating, or my favorite visualization is that like in the falling, the universe is catching me and I'm flying on the back of a hawk or something. And like that is that state of surrender, like you're being held like you did with the pen through that process. Um,
I love that. Like it's okay to fall.
yeah,
It's okay. You're going to get caught.
yeah. So like that visualization, and then just tapping into like the reminder of I'm not alone. The universe has my back. I'm co-creating my reality with the universe. And that's really helpful when I'm like, I don't have to grip and force. I just really need to take a moment, remind myself of where I'm at, what I've done. I didn't do it alone, and I can't continue alone. I need to just let go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm. What about you? What's your favorite go to?
Well, just this last full moon, I did a beautiful ceremony of release and surrendering, and it felt so, so good and so nurturing. And I feel like when we say the word ceremony, sometimes that might invoke this visual of some grandiose extravaganza, but it can be so simple. And for me, it was time dedicated to myself and being at my altar in prayer, in meditation. And I wrote down all the things that I wanted to release. And it was really incredible how I started with, okay, I'm going to write down these three things. But then once I started going, I had a whole page of things that I wanted to release, because once you write down something like, I want to release this habit, then you start to realize why you want to release it. I want to release it because it makes me feel like this. I want to release it because of this that happens in my reality. And then all of a sudden, there's all these emotions that come up around it that you also want to release. And it felt really good to get all of that out. And then, as part of that release, I burned it in the fire and I let it go into the ashes and into the air, and had that prayer of like, this is being alkalized and changed in the universe. And that felt really, really nourishing. And then in my calling in, like, what am I going to call in to fill that void of what I've released? Just imagining the energy from the universe flowing in to fill those voids. That felt really, really good. And then I also did a practice of cord cutting,
Mm.
which is, maybe that might be a topic for a whole another episode, but essentially it's that energetic tie to the things that we want to release, and this idea that we can consciously release those energetic ties and come back into our sovereign energy more fully. And that felt really good, to do that practice with the full moon as well. So
Mhm.
that's what was present for me right now and felt really, really good.
Yeah, I love that. Like the act of like doing the list and the burning, that can be so powerful.
Yeah, yeah, it felt really good.
Mm.
And back to that idea of, it doesn't have to be grandiose. It's like you could have a daily surrender of one thing that you want to surrender. And even if it's the same thing every day, you write it down and you burn it. One thing.
Mm.
And just that conscious act of, every day I'm setting this intention, every day I'm letting this go. And eventually you're going to get to that point where you go to write it down and you're like, I've already let this go. It's
Mm.
already gone. And so even if maybe you do it one time and you don't feel anything, or maybe you don't want to go through a whole list, just write down that one thing and burn it and let it go.
Yeah. Whoa. That's
Stuff.
amazing. I love that.
I love that we have the power to change our states and our reality through these practices. And it doesn't require the assistance of anyone else, except for leaning into the universe that is supporting us always.
Yes. Mm, I think that's a beautiful note to end on. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day, and we'll see you again next time.